My name is Sophia. I came home for Christmas, but my seat at the table was taken. It's just immediate family throat. Pete, the first thing you should know is that I still have the boarding pass from December 23rd folded in the back pocket of the jeans I wore on the plane. I kept it like a ticket stub to a movie I never wanted to see again. The flight was red-eye, the kind where the cabin lights dim to a bruised purple, and everyone pretends to sleep so they don't have to talk. I pressed my forehead to the cold window and watched the Midwest slide underneath us like a dark quilt, thinking about the smell of my mom's Tamils, steaming up the kitchen windows back home. I'd been gone for 18 months. First year of my residency in Boston, 12-hour shifts in the ER, living on cold coffee and the fluorescent hum of the trauma bay. Christmas was the finish line I'd been running toward since August. I even packed the ugly sweater my little brother Mateo sent me, the one with the reindeer that lights up when you press its nose. I was ready to be the daughter who finally came back, the sister who made it, the girlfriend who still fit into the life she'd left behind. Our house sits on a cul-de-sac in Aurora, Illinois, the kind of street where every driveway has a basketball hoop and every porch light flickers on at the same exact minute. When the Uber turned the corner, the whole block glowed like a snow globe someone had shaken too hard. I could see our place from 3 houses away. Dad had strung the icicle lights along the gutter again, the ones that drip in perfect rows like frozen tears. My suitcase wheels rattled over the salted sidewalk, and I remember the way my breath hung in the air, little ghosts that disappeared before I could name them. The front door was unlocked, because in our family it always is during the holidays. I stepped inside and the heat hit me first, then the smell. Cinnamon, pork fat. The pine candle Mom burns every year until the wick drowns. I left my boots by the mat and padded toward the kitchen in my socks. Voices floated down the hallway, layered over the low crackle of the fireplace. Mom's laugh, Dad's deeper rumble. Mateo teasing someone about burning the rolls again. And then another voice, lighter, quicker, the kind that lilts at the end of every sentence like a question. I knew that voice. I'd fallen asleep to it on late, night FaceTime calls, whispering across 3 time zones. It was Ethan, my Ethan, the boy who'd been waiting for me since sophomore year of college, the one who'd proposed with a ring pop in the hospital parking lot because he said real diamonds were overrated. He was supposed to pick me up at O'Hare tomorrow morning. He wasn't supposed to be here now. I stopped in the doorway. The kitchen island was covered in masa and corn husks, the way it always is the night before Christmas Eve. Mom had her back to me, rolling tamales with the same rhythm she'd used since I was 5. Dad was carving the pernil, steam curling up around his glasses. Mateo was sneaking bites of skin from the pan. And there, perched on the stool I'd claimed since middle school, was Ethan. His arm was around a girl I didn't recognize. Blonde, freckled, wearing the red flannel he'd stolen from my closet last Christmas. She was laughing at something he'd whispered, her head tipped back, throat exposed like she belonged there. The reindeer sweater I'd packed hung loose on her shoulders. My sweater, my stool, my spot. Mom turned then, flour on her cheek, and her face did this thing. Froze, then melted, then froze again. "Misha," she said too loud. "You're early." Ethan's head snapped up. The girl, Claire, I'd learn later, smiled like she'd been expecting me. "Sophia," Ethan said, standing so fast the stool scraped the tile. "Your flight." "Got in early," I finished. My voice sounded like it belonged to someone else, thin and far away. Dad wiped his hands on the apron that said Kess, Teach, Coke in faded letters. "We weren't expecting you till tomorrow, honey. The roads." I took an Uber. I couldn't stop staring at Claire's hand on Ethan's wrist, the way her thumb traced the vein there, the same way I used to when we watched movies on his couch. Mateo finally looked up from the pernil. "Hey, Soph, you okay? You look like you saw a ghost." I wasn't okay. I was cataloging every detail like evidence. The way Claire's hair caught the light from the pendant lamps. The way Ethan's shoulders curved protectively toward her. The way Mom wouldn't meet my eyes. The kitchen felt suddenly too small, the air thick with oregano and betrayal. That night I slept in the basement on the pull-out couch because Claire's allergic to the dog, and we put her in your old room. The ceiling down there is low, pipes running overhead like veins. I lay awake listening to the house settle, to the muffled laughter upstairs, to the creak of floorboards as someone, Ethan, walked past my door and didn't stop. At 3:17 a.m., I opened my phone and scrolled through Claire's Instagram. Public profile, of course. Photos from last month, her and Ethan at the pumpkin patch, her and Ethan at the lake house my family rents every summer, her and Ethan in front of the Christmas tree that was still half decorated in our living room. The captions were all heart emojis and inside jokes I didn't know. The last post was a video. Claire spinning under the icicle lights. Ethan's hands on her waist, my mom clapping in the background. Posted 6 hours ago, while I was 30,000 feet in the air, thinking about how good it would feel to come home. I didn't cry. Not then. I just closed the app and stared at the dark until the pipes stopped dripping. Christmas Eve morning smelled like coffee and betrayal. I woke up with the basement's chill in my bones and the pull-out's metal bar digging into my spine. Upstairs, the house was already humming, Mom's playlist of Jose Feliciano and old-school salsa leaking through the floorboards. I pulled on the same jeans from the plane, the boarding pass still crumpled in the pocket like a receipt for a purchase I never meant to make. My reflection in the bathroom mirror looked like a stranger eyes, puffy, hair flat on one side, the kind of tired that no amount of concealer can fix. I brushed my teeth hard enough to taste blood. When I climbed the stairs, the kitchen was a war zone of half-wrapped gifts and spilled cinnamon. Claire was at the island again, wearing my mom's apron, the one with the faded poinsettias, piping meringue onto a pie like she'd done it 100 times. Ethan stood behind her, chin on her shoulder, murmuring something that made her laugh so hard she smeared frosting on her nose. Mom bustled past with a tray of cafecito cups. "Morning, Mija," she said. "Too bright." Claire made caquitos. "Try one." Claire turned, smiling like we were sorority sisters. "Sophia, right? Ethan says you're basically a doctor now. That's so cool." I took the tiny cup she offered. The coconut rum burned going down. "Almost?" I said. "Still got boards in March." Ethan finally looked at me. Really looked. His eyes were the same hazel I used to trace with my finger when we studied for Org Chem, but now they flicked away too fast. "We should talk," he muttered. "Later," I said. "Don't want to interrupt pie time." The day unfolded like a fever dream. I helped Dad string the last of the outdoor lights, the cold biting through my gloves, while he asked safe questions about the hospital, about Boston winters, about anything except the girl wearing my life upstairs. Every time I went inside, Claire was there, helping Mateo set the table, posing for Mom's annual "Kids in front of the tree" photo, even answering the door when Tia Carmen arrived with her loud kisses and louder perfume. Each moment was a paper cut, small, clean, cumulative. By noon, the house was packed. Cousins spilled out of the living room. Kids chased the dog through the hallway. Someone had already broken the glass ornament I made in 3rd grade. I slipped outside to the backyard, needing air that didn't taste like everyone else's joy. The snow had started. Fat, lazy flakes that melted the second they touched the patio heater's glow. I stood under the string lights and watched my breath cloud, trying to remember what Ethan's hands felt like when they weren't on someone else. That's when my stepsister Vanessa found me. She'd flown in from Denver, all sleek highlights and city coat, the kind of beautiful that makes you feel underdressed in your own skin. We'd never been close. Different moms, different planets, but she'd always had a knack for reading rooms. "You look like someone kicked your puppy," she said, offering me a joint she'd rolled on the plane. I took it. The smoke curled between us like a question. "Claire's nice," Vanessa said carefully. "But she's not you." "She's wearing my sweater," I said. The words came out flat. Vanessa exhaled toward the sky. "Mom's trying to keep the peace. You know how she gets when Dad's blood pressure spikes." "Peace," I repeated. The word tasted like ash. Inside, someone cranked the music. Mark Anthony telling the world he'd live again. I crushed the joint under my boot and went back in. Dinner was at 6. The dining room table had been extended with every leaf we owned, white tablecloth starched within an inch of its life. Name cards in Mom's perfect cursive. I found mine wedged between two Louis and the wall. Literally the corner, the seat with the wobbly leg. Across from me, Claire, dead center, Ethan on her left, Mateo on her right. My seat. The one I'd sat in since I was tall enough to see over the salt shakers. The one with the tiny burn mark from the year I tried to light the candles with a sparkler. I stood in the doorway holding the bowl of Arose Con gandules, steam fogging my glasses. Mom bustled past. "Sophia, can you grab the extra chairs from the garage? We're short." I set the bowl down. "There's an empty seat right there." I nodded at Claire. Mom's smile froze. "Mija, Claire's. It's just immediate family," Claire said, soft, apologetic, like she was reading from a script. Your mom explained. The room went quiet the way only big families can. 30 people suddenly fascinated by their napkins. Ethan wouldn't look at me. Dad cleared his throat. Mateo kicked my shin under the table, his way of saying, "Don't make a scene." I laughed. It came out sharp, surprised. "Right, immediate family." I walked out. Not dramatic, just left the bowl and kept going, through the kitchen, out the back door, into the snow that was starting to stick. I sat on the porch steps until my butt went numb. The joint Vanessa gave me was gone, but I still had the boarding pass. I unfolded it, smoothed it against my thigh. Flight to 472, Boston to Chicago, one way. I'd bought the return for January 2nd, thinking I'd need the full week to remember how to be Sophia from home. Stupid. Ethan found me 20 minutes later. He'd brought my coat, the puffy one I left in the hall closet. "Here," he said, draping it over my shoulders. I didn't move. "You drove Claire here?" "My flight got in yesterday. Your mom invited me to help decorate." "She invited you to stay in my room." He sat beside me, close enough that our knees almost touched. "Sophia, I was going to tell you. After Christmas, I didn't want to ruin." "Ruin what?" "My 1 week home in 18 months. My voice cracked. "You proposed to me, Ethan, with a ring pop. In a parking lot, you said." "I know what I said." He rubbed his face. "Things changed. You were gone. I was here." Claire was. "Convenient." He flinched. "Real." The word landed between us like a thrown knife. "Real." As if the last 6 years had been dress rehearsal, I stood up. The snow was falling harder now, sticking to his hair like dandruff. "Enjoy dinner," I said. "Try the pernil." Dad brined it for 2 days. I left him there, coatless, watching me walk away. That night I slept in Vanessa's rental car. The seats reclined just enough, and the engine block stayed warm for hours. I woke up every time a cousin slammed the front door, drunk on coquito and nostalgia. At 2 a.m., I crept back inside for my suitcase. The house was dark except for the Christmas tree, its lights blinking in slow, hypnotic rhythm. I stood in the living room and looked at the ornaments. My kindergarten handprint in clay, Mateo's first soccer medal, the glass ballerina Ethan gave me the year we started dating. Claire had hung a new one dead center, a wooden heart engraved AE+E 2024. It caught the light like a wink. I took it down. The ribbon was red velvet, soft between my fingers. I slipped it into my pocket. Christmas morning dawned gray and slushy, the kind of Midwest winter that turns snow into mud by noon. I woke up in the rental car with a crick in my neck and frost on the windows, my phone dead from the cold. Vanessa had left the keys in the ignition, bless her, so I cranked the heat and watched the defroster carve little rivers down the glass. The house loomed across the driveway, curtains still drawn, the icicle lights winking like they were in on the joke. I could picture them inside, Mom in her robe, starting the coffee, Dad shuffling newspapers, Mateo sneaking downstairs for the first stocking grab, and Claire, probably curled up in Ethan's arms in my old bed, the sheets still smelling like my lavender detergent. I didn't go in right away. Instead, I drove to the 24-hour diner on Route 59, the one with the neon sign that buzzes like a trapped fly. The waitress, Marla, according to her Namataug, poured me black coffee without asking and slid a plate of pancakes across the counter. "Rof night, Han," she said, her voice gravelly from too many cigarettes. I nodded, tracing syrup patterns with my fork. "Family stuff." She leaned on her elbows, the fluorescent lights catching the silver in her hair. "Ain't it always?" My ex showed up last year with his new piece. I spiked the eggnog with laxatives. "Merry Christmas" to me. I laughed for the first time in 24 hours. It felt rusty, like an old hinge, but her words stuck, burrowing into the hollow spot under my ribs. Not the laxatives. That was too crass, too traceable. But the idea of turning their comfort into something sour, something they couldn't ignore. I sipped the coffee, letting it scald my tongue, and started thinking. Really thinking. Claire had slipped into my spot like it was vacant, like I'd left a forwarding address. But spots like that aren't given. They're earned. With years of scraped knees in the backyard, late night talks in the kitchen, the invisible threads that tie a family together, I could remind them, subtly, slowly, make them feel the absence they'd created. By the time I got back, the house was alive. Cars lined the curb, Tia Carmen's minivan, Uncle Rico's pickup with the rusty fender. I slipped in through the garage, avoiding the front door fanfare. The kitchen smelled like chorizo and eggs, the sizzle cutting through the chatter. Mom spotted me first, her spatula pausing mid-flip. "Sophia, where were you? We were worried." I said, forcing a smile that felt like cracking ice. Needed some air. "Merry Christmas." Ma, I hugged her, feeling the tension in her shoulders. The way she patted my back too quick. Claire was at the island, arranging fruit on a platter, her hair in a perfect messy bun. Ethan hovered nearby, stacking plates. He glanced at me, then away, like I was a ghost he didn't want to summon. "Merry Christmas, Sophia," Claire said, her voice sugar sweet. "I saved you some orange slices." "Thanks," I replied, taking one. It was tart, biting. Perfect. I didn't confront, didn't yell. Instead, I melted into the background, observing. Claire was good at this, the outsider playing insider. She knew where the good mugs were, laughed at Dad's bad jokes like they'd been scripted for her, even helped Mateo untangle the Xbox cords without being asked. But I saw the cracks the way she hesitated before calling Mom. Messes. Ramirez, the awkward pause, when Ty Carmen asked about her family traditions. She was performing, and performances have scripts. I could rewrite hers. First, I started small. During gift opening, the living room a sea of wrapping paper and ribbon curls, I waited for my moment. The tree lights cast everything in a warm glow, shadows dancing on the walls like forgotten memories. When Claire unwrapped the scarf I'd bought for Mom, a soft cashmere thing from a Boston boutique, Mom beamed. "Oh, Claire, you picked the perfect color!" Claire flushed. "Actually, Sophia got it. I just wrapped it." I waved it off. "No big deal. I remembered how cold last winter was for you, Ma. That flu you had. Kept you in bed for days." Mom's eyes softened. "You always remember the little things, Mija." Claire's smile tightened, just a fraction. Ethan shifted on the couch, his knee brushing hers. Next, I pulled Vanessa aside in the hallway, the air thick with pine and cinnamon. "Hey, sis," I whispered. "You still have that old photo album, the one from the lake house summers." She arched an eyebrow. "The embarrassing one, with the braces and bad haircuts? That's the one." She smirked. "What are you up to?" "Reminiscing," I said innocently. "Family tradition." By afternoon, the house was full again, relatives milling like extras in a holiday movie. I set the album on the coffee table, opened to a page from 2018, me and Ethan at the dock, his arm around my waist, both of us sunburned and grinning. Madio flipped through it first, laughing. God Sov, remember when Ethan pushed you off the boat? You came up spitting water like a drowned cat. Ethan chuckled, but it was forced. Claire leaned over, her fingers tracing the photo. You two look so young. We were? I said softly. That was the summer he taught me to water ski. Broke my pinky, but it was worth it. Dad wandered over, peering down. Ah, good times. Ethan, you were like a son back then. Claire's hand stilled. The room didn't notice. The conversation flowed on, but I saw it, the seed planted. That evening, as the sun dipped low and turned the snow orange, I cornered Ethan in the kitchen while he loaded the dishwasher. The clink of plates masked our words. Why her? I asked, not accusatory, just quiet. He sighed, soap suds dripping from his hands. Suff, please. Not now. Now or never, I said. You owe me that. She was there. When you canceled Thanksgiving. When your shifts ran long. She listened. I nodded like it made sense. And my family, they just adopted her. Your mom likes her. Says she's good for me. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Good for you. Not for us. He looked at me then, really looked. And for a second I saw the old Ethan, the one who'd drive 2 hours for my favorite takeout. But then Claire called from the living room, and he went. I spent the next day gathering threads. While everyone napped off the food coma, I scrolled Claire's socials again, deeper this time. Found her LinkedIn marketing assistant at a firm downtown, the kind with glass offices and free kombucha. Her posts were polished, brunches, yoga retreats, quotes about manifesting dreams. But buried in the comments, a pattern X, friends tagging her in passive-aggressive memes, one from 6 months ago saying, when your bestie ghosts you for a guy. I screenshotted it, tucked it away like ammunition. Vanessa caught me in the basement, my laptop glowing in the dim light. Stalking, she asked, flopping onto the couch. Research, I corrected. Claire's not who she seems. Vanessa lit another joint, the smoke hazy under the low ceiling. Spill. She's a climber. Jumps from circle to circle. Look, her last boyfriend's family was loaded. Country club pics, the works. Then poof, she's here. Vanessa exhaled slowly. And Ethan's her ticket to what? Our Tamils? I laughed. Our stability. Mom's approval. The whole package. So what's the play? I closed the laptop. Make them see it. Without me saying a word. Over the next few days, I wove it in. At breakfast, I casually mentioned a patient's story from the ER, a girl who'd faked symptoms for attention, how it unraveled when the tests came back clean. Mom nodded thoughtfully. People like that, they fool you at first. Claire busied herself with the dishes. During a family game night, I suggested charades. When it was Claire's turn, she acted out imposter, fumbling the gestures. I guessed it first, loud enough for everyone. Imposter! Like someone pretending to be part of the team. The room laughed, but Claire's cheeks burned. I gifted her a book on New Year's Eve, The Art of Belonging, a self-help thing I'd grabbed from the airport bookstore. Thought it might help, I said sweetly, with fitting in. Her thank you was clipped. Each move was a pebble in a pond, ripples spreading. Ethan started watching her differently, questions in his eyes. Mom asked me privately if I was okay, her hand on my arm longer than usual. The house felt heavier, the laughter a little forced. I slept better, the basement couch no longer an exile but a vantage point. By January 1st, the plan was set. The final thread, the annual family slideshow Dad puts together, photos from the year projected on the living room wall while we sipped champagne. I'd volunteered to help compile it this time, slipping in old shots mixed with new, me in scrubs, FaceTiming from Boston. Ethan and me at last year's fireworks, Claire's Instagrams steals side by side with our real memories. Subtle contrasts, let them draw the lines. As the clock ticked toward midnight, I sat back, the ornament from the tree, the Etlasi heart, still in my pocket. It felt like a talisman now, ready to break.